Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this alumni panel. My name is BJ Engelhardt. I'm the Senior Director for Career Services. I am also an alum myself. I received my Master's of Marketing Analytics and Communication from the Stewart School of Business in 2015. I'm joined today by members of our Alumni Career and Professional Board. So we have many boards that are part of our Alumni Association that focus on different areas. And we have a really great group of alumni who really are focused on issues around career and professional development for our current students and also our recent alums, because we really want to make sure that all of our students, all of our recent alums really get on the right foot to having a successful career. I'm going to do a quick introduction for them, and then we'll get started with some questions. And, I think we've got a great panel that, really has, comes from different backgrounds, also kind of different experience levels to really talk about our topic today, which is continuous learning for career success. So we're going to really delve into, the importance of continuous learning, continuous education, professional development. Also, we're going to talk about credentialing, which is also a big part of this conversation. How can you use those things first to get your foot in the door, but then also as you start your career and kind of move through it, how do you work your way up using some of these tools, to get where you want to be with your career? So I'm going to introduce quickly our panel here. I'm joined by Raymond Nelson, PE and MBB, which are credentials, which I know he's going to talk about a little bit later. So I'm excited to hear about what that's all about. He's Director of Lean Operations and Global Strategy at Basel Solutions. And he received his Bachelor's of Mechanical Engineering and a Management minor from Illinois Tech in 1978. We also have Sandra Mazzini, who is Commercial Director of Business Development at Technip Energies, who received his Bachelor of Chemical Engineering in 1994. And then Yotsun Diaz, Smart Construction Solutions Manager at Komatsu America Corp., received her bachelor's degree in 2014. Thank you all for being here. I want to get started. I know we're going to get kind of into your career trajectories and that sort of thing. But I want to start with kind of, if you can go in the Wayback Time Machine and tell me about your experience of graduating from Illinois Tech and finding that first postgraduate opportunity. Okay. And so let's turn it over to Sandra to start.
Since I'm not on mute, okay. Well, welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. A little bit of background, I'm based in Houston. It's been about, since I left Chicago, since '06, so a little over 15 years. I was actually a international student at the IIT, and I was working while going to school, so and there's a reason for that, I mentioned in that, because for me, the first postgraduate job opportunity came to leverage that job that I was doing while going to school, because I was working as a lab technician in a company and making connections through that company. That company ended up becoming, as I learned over the past, the owner of the company that I got hired to. So having the connections and the experience helped me land the job. It wasn't automatic. I still had to compete, of course, but the connections, the recommendations, and the experience ahead of graduation put me in a better position. I think that's still very relevant. I think you're going to hear me talk a lot about networking and connections, especially in this competitive environment. So having that experience and the right connections to get recommendations and references definitely helps land your first job in this challenging market. Who's next?
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. So I am based in Chicago. I graduated in 2014, as VJ mentioned, and I am in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. I remember back before I graduated IIT, I was an intern at Osinga, the concrete. I'm sure you've all seen like concrete trucks around. So I was an intern there, and I wasn't really sure what the direction that I wanted to go. But I think that what's important for, looking for a job now, looking back, is, think about like what sets you apart from the rest of the people that are graduating, right? And one of the things that really worked for me was being involved extracurricularly in school, right? Because that shows that you're taking the extra time to be part of something, to learn something new, and just to network, right? As Sandra was saying, like networking, making those connections, right? So when I went to the career fair also at IAT. I was already an intern with Osinga, and just sort of, express my interest in, being part of different organizations to try to learn something new. And I think that a lot of the employees took it as, okay, like you're willing to invest in yourself, you're willing to spend that extra time, right? Not just in school, but you outside of school, making those connections. I think maybe a few months after I graduated, I was able to kind of land that job, but also by doing a lot of networking and going through a lot of events, right, to make those connections with other people. On to you, Raymond.
Okay, and last and certainly least, I started working actually the summer after I graduated high school. The director of admissions at the time, Dr. Nate Thomas, actually got myself and two of my high school classmates jobs as draftsmen. We had taken drafting in high school, so we were comfortable with working for the electromotive division of General Motors as draftsmen. Myself as a mechanical draftsman, and one other as an electrical draftsman, and Arndell, I believe he was a mechanical draftsman as well. So we did that summer. They both went on to have careers with that company. Myself, Nate Thomas, Dr. Nate, we called him Nate, got me a scholarship with with the Union Oil Company, and so I had a co-op position, and that's what really swayed me to come to IIT, because I was going to have my cake and eat it too by being able to go away to school in a sense by co-oping in a different location. In this case, it was Beaumont, Texas, working in an oil refinery. And the difference there is compared to just summer education is that you actually get a chance to do real work as a co-op student, because you're there for several months as opposed to just there for over a summer. So it's not that you are just given busy work, you're actually given real work. So I got to really enjoy project engineering, which is what I did. And even the summer that my co-op session, during the summer, I was able to work part-time at their refinery in Lamont, Illinois. So that helped out as well. And then because I wanted to graduate in 4 years, actually it took 4.5 years, but Nate was able to get me another scholarship with Clark Equipment Company, where I worked 2 summers in South Bend, Indiana. Well, outside of South Bend, but I actually lived down the street from Notre Dame. So that was an opportunity to do test engineering. And one of the benefits in being able to have a broad range of experiences is that you learn what you like and you learn what you don't like. What I learned that I didn't like was test engineering. To me, it was boring, because all you did was test stuff to failure and then write reports. Whereas with project engineering, it was you were given a problem and you conceptualize what that problem is, and then you get to see it realized and actually be used. And for me, it was like having children, you know. So I have several babies, as I call them. So when I graduated, I knew I wanted to be a project engineer. So I took a job with DuPont Corporation, DuPont, and actually spent 37 years with them before I retired in 2016. And I had a number of assignments, starting with project engineering, maintenance engineering, now called reliability engineering. Then I was asked to go into operations. And then later in my career, I became a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma. So I'm saying all that to say that one of the keys to this, oh, I should mention I also got my professional engineering license. So two things, it's much easier to get your license now. So you don't have to wait 5 years like I did. You can take the fundamentals of engineering and then immediately afterwards take the PE examination. You still have to wait 5 years to get your license, but you're able to get the test out the way that much sooner. So I would highly recommend everyone go after the PE license if you can, no matter what your discipline is. And then the other thing that's kind of running through the thread of all this is I had a boss that actually thought I was a chemical engineer, and I had to show him my diploma to convince him I was a mechanical engineer and not a chemical engineer. And so I'm saying that to say that continuous learning is essential. So I had a number of different types of experiences. And one of the things that I became recognized for was being able to learn new technologies, new applications, new ways of doing business and new businesses. And that's something that I do now in my consulting career. So working with insurance companies and finance companies, working with universities, working with chemical companies, you know, so just being able to apply basic principles, the things you learn in school, basic principles, and then being able to apply those, that's really essential. So continuous improvement. If I
You're still in your thunder, BJ.
I'm sorry?
The perfect leeway to the next question.
I know,
Yes.
I know. He's like, it's like transitioning like straight through like that. Yeah. Thank you, Raymond. No, that's fantastic. Some really great thoughts there. You know, I just want to echo, and I know this isn't necessarily the primary topic of this meeting, but I think it's really important to be thinking about, you know, the importance of networking and using connections. Now, I always talk with students when I meet with them personally that the U.S. has such a referral-based, networking-based job market, and you know, you're not gonna get through just on your skill sets alone. It's got to be, you have to also think about that network and building that out. And so I think it's clear that all of you have had some experiences of you know, at some point in your career, either at the beginning or at some point later, you know, needing that network as being an important part of your kind of your development. So and then Ray got us rolling with this question about like thinking about, you know, how has credentialing and continuous learning helped you move up in your career as you've kind of moved through? Like what, like how did those things, professional development, credentialing, get you to that next step?
I guess we're in the same order.
Yeah.
I think it's crucial. It has been, I mean, it was for me, and I'll talk about a little more in a minute, but in this, where we are now in this decade or this century, however you want to classify it, the ease of getting, you know, continuous learning, it makes things so simple, you know. So for me, I was fortunate that my first company had a very specific on-the-job training program for 5 years through a number of different assignments. And so at that time, it was all chemical engineering, so heavy on the technical side. But towards the end of that training program, they had what they call an option to remain technical or switch to, at that time, they call it pseudo-technical, which was a little bit of technical and a little bit of commercial. And while then I took the latter to be a little more commercial, technical, and then that helped me in my next company land that new job. And the reason I wanted to give you that is because in the second company that I worked with, they had a very specific learning division. Some companies have this, in which, in this case, for a commercial person, for me, it helped me grow at different levels, some at mastery levels, some others that would help me in my career commercially, to the point that I became an internal teacher and coach for that company for that particular subject. And all those courses that I had to take internally, and also leveraging some external training, executive training outside of the school funded by the company. So I was able to leverage that to get more, whether they're certificates or just taking a few classes. In my case, I've always been biased about MBA, but that can be a different conversation. That's fine. And so I took selective classes to be able to complement what I was already learning, what I already learned, to be able to fill the gaps, so to speak. And now more recently, there's so much different places where you can go, whether it's Google or whether it's Coursera and the like, to continue to enhance your skills. I think for me, I'm always thinking about different things that I have no idea about. So I'll give you an example. So in my current role, which is very commercial, we are trying to sell certain things, right? But sometimes it's good to understand the language of marketing, and how marketing continues to evolve, for example, digitally, whether it is business to consumer or business to business. So Google, for example, in case you didn't know, you can actually take a 40-hour free online class and get a digital marketing certificate that it's valid, it's recognized. Now you can put that in your resume, you can put it in LinkedIn profile, but then people will see these things. So that has helped me move and switch companies and added things, and most importantly, gotten me visibility, especially in LinkedIn, and for new connections or new things. There's a question I think that just came up. I think I saw it popped up. It says, how do you network during COVID? So I'll take a stab at that. It's a challenge not only for networking, but even for doing business every day. So there are different platforms that you can join. You can start by using social media. I mean, and when I say social media, I'm talking about LinkedIn, or you can start with Facebook. Whether you're a technical person or not, start what you're comfortable in. So I see, for example, looking at the names on the list, there's a nice mix of Asia Pacific, students or Asia Pacific background. So find out what are some of those networks. For example, for chemical engineering, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers is an organization that you can join as a student. And they have student organizations that you can join and start networking. You can do that. And then some of the older people also support the student organizations. That's just one example of a place that you can do that. So I'll stop because otherwise I'm going to hug all the time.
No worries. Okay, so how credentials and continuous learning. Okay, so I think for me, it was looking into my industry and some of the basic credentials that I can get, right? Like that maybe were required by, as you want to move up in your career. So I'll give you an example. One of the things is, in construction, getting that OSHA certification, right? And it's not mandatory, right? But a lot of times it's required, right? If you want to be on the job site. So that proves that, all the safety regulations or anything like that. So I remember just kind of, doing a search of, basic certifications or basic, credentials that could help me in the industry, right? And one of them was OSHA. It's just a series of questions, a lot of, on hands, like on the job site training. And once you get that, it just makes you more valuable, right? So once I got that, I was able to work on larger projects, right? Just because I had that certification. A lot of people don't like to get it because it is a lot of class time. It takes a lot of time. But I think for me, it really helped me, kind of move into bigger projects, and bigger projects meant, more experience and more to learn from. Another thing I can share with you guys is, in construction is very tough to get involved on the technology side of things. But just having that curiosity, I, started looking into, what softwares are out there in my industry, right? What else is out there? And I got just like a basic software design, UI, right? And that was something because it just interests me, right? And I knew that maybe it had nothing to do with my industry, but I knew that at the same time that I was learning something new. So because of that, just having that basic knowledge and that certification, I was able to get my current job where I'm, the current position that I'm at. And it's not really hardcore construction, but I think if I wouldn't have had that continuous learning, even exploring other areas, I wouldn't have been able to kind of get the job that I have today. Jumping into the next questions of, how to network, I do have some tips for that because I realized that COVID is kind of like a time where everybody like slow down and makes you rethink like, where am I in my career, right? Or, as a younger person, I'm like, am I doing enough, right? Do I always want to be, with this company and like all these thoughts, right? So one of the things that I really found helpful, I don't know if you guys heard of the app and the website Meetup, right? So a lot of people create different groups around the city and they have meetup groups, doing something fun from like going for a walk and a run to, other professional groups. So what I started doing is just joining industry groups, right? That, just kind of provide like online lectures or even, a lot of them provide like 30 minutes, phone call to kind of network. And I think I've really found those really helpful because I don't think I would have met, these type of people in my industry or even in other industries without joining. So I would say LinkedIn is another big one. And, just seeing a lot of, how should I say, like there's like webinar groups too on LinkedIn that I just recently found out. So I highly recommend those to join those and attend. It takes a little bit of time, but if you're home, all you have to do is just, click a link and it takes you there. I saw a few other questions here, BJ. I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, we'll save some of these, I think.
Okay.
Just kind of as we go along. But Raymond, I just wanted to, if you want to chime in with some more thoughts on continuous learning and credentialing, or if you want to take the COVID networking, or both.
Okay, well, let me do a little of both. In my family, it's called pulling an Uncle Ray, where you don't make choices, you do both. So I've become legendary with my nieces and nephews about, okay, well, let's not choose, let's just do both of them. So I'm saying that in the spirit of, I think one of the things that I highly regret not having done was taking a foreign language when I was at IIT. Mm-hmm. I've noticed that most of the people, if not everyone on this call except for myself, are multilingual. I have some familiarity with a number of different languages, but I cannot say that I'm fluent in any other language but English. I know what ni hao means hello in Mandarin. I know Anyan Hachinika is hello in Korean. Unfortunately, I don't know how to say that in any of the languages that are in the country of India, because when I'd asked one of my colleagues, what is the official language of India, they told me English, because there are so many different languages in the different states. So I'm saying all that to say that although that was one of the things that was one of my deficiencies, one of the things I learned when I worked in a large multinational corporation was networking comes from being able to work in different cultures and work with people from different cultures. And so I became very attached with many of my colleagues from different countries. So colleagues in mainland China, colleagues in Taiwan, which I had a chance to visit. I've had a chance to go to Korea, visit Korea. I've spent several trips to Brazil. I even had a chance to go to Geneva, Switzerland. And so I'm saying all that to say that it's very important to understand the cultural similarities and the distinctions between cultures, particularly with people that you're going to work with, because that can really enhance your ability to get things done and actually helps your reputation. And so the soft skills that you learn are as important as the hard skills. So going back to hard skills, I think to gain credibility, it's good to become an expert in something. So I became an expert in basically the chemical chlorine. I became one of the corporate safety guardians for chlorine, where I was able to design, construct, and later operate a chlorine tank car unloading facility and help write the corporate standards. Where that was useful was I was the young buck in a committee of older professionals, older experts, and they basically took me under their wing and educated me. So I was willing to learn, but what I also learned was the importance of being able to have dialogue and debate, to be able to learn how to be persuasive, particularly when you're doing something like writing standards or bringing different perspectives together. So the soft skills that I learned were just as important as the hard skills. So kind of segueing to the question on networking during COVID, kind of goes back to continuous improvement or continuous learning. So I've actually become busier during COVID than I was immediately prior to COVID, because I'm doing a lot of remote teaching via Zoom or Teams, where these companies aren't able to have people on site to provide training to them. So by being able to provide training remotely, where you do have to make some adjustments to your delivery, also things like breakout sessions or things that would be hands-on that you can't do hands-on, but being creative in how you are able to deliver the material also makes you want it. So now our company is the go-to person or go-to company for this particular company that provides a lot of online learning opportunities to corporations through university grants. So that's just one example where you want to think about how you can turn a crisis into an opportunity.
And if I can add something, I think everyone, just by being here right now, right, if you all can agree, the way to network and, you know, looking for continued learning, in my opinion.
Yeah, if I might add to that, which it's probably a little bit of a lead into the next question, is take advantage of your alumni board. You know, take advantage of the career and development committee in the board, that they're there to help you and guide you. Find someone, one alumni in your field or not necessarily in your field, that could be a mentor or a coach, so that they can help you and create a plan and how do you tackle some of the challenges that you have. I mean, I am the chair of the career development, professional development committee, and we're always willing to help students, willing and available to learn students, either with mentorship or coaching when they have challenges. Take advantage also of the resources from the school. So we always mention this, but I'm going to be a little blunt here. Unfortunately, you guys don't call us, so we can't call you. So if you don't call us, we can't help you. So
yeah, and we'll make sure that we get an email out of ways that you can get a hold of members of the committee, so that we make that as easy as possible. I definitely encourage you to access the bridge, which is our kind of like internal LinkedIn. I'll make sure when somebody's answering a question next that I put that in the chat. But you know, I wanted to, before I move on and get to, you know, other thoughts about what you should be doing right now, you know, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things I just heard. I've heard kind of throughout is, you know, the importance of specialization and differentiation, and maybe learning things that other people don't know who are, you know, either applying for positions that you're applying for or that are within your company, you know. So do something that nobody else knows how to do, and you are going to be very valuable. And so Raymond talked about that in terms of being the only person that knows that specific thing in his company, and then, think about that as you're kind of going through the process. But, I know that I think we had the question earlier from, let's see here, it was Nidhi Pawar, in terms of a few pointers on entry-level construction management. And I think that's also a good question to answer here in terms of what should students be thinking about right now. They're just doing their first entry-level job search. When it comes to credentialing, I know we talked a little bit about Coursera, Udemy, those type of things. How should they be thinking about using these things to supplement their search, in these different industries? So, Yossi, you want to start?
Yeah, so specifically for construction, I think that, you should keep in mind, have an idea on the direction, specifically what you want to do in construction, and just keep in mind that, if you want, an office job in construction, like that doesn't happen, right? Like, so keep in mind that you're going to be on the job site with projects, right? But also, I think willingness to learn, be open to, talking to others on the job site, so when you're applying to a job, emphasize the fact that you want to work with the trades, you want to learn from other people, because there's a lot to learn, I think in every industry, but I think, in construction, you gotta also use your resources, right? Because you get to deal with a lot of people around you on a daily basis. And then certifications, be part of organizations like there's CMAA, that IIT actually has a chapter. So Construction Association of America, the student chapter. So I would, recommend be part of that. It's very well known, and it's, held in a high standard in the industry. So I think, being part of that and trying to be active and, mentioning that when you're job searching, that will come in handy. They have a lot of lectures. They have a lot of networking events as well that, that you can attend. And I think that would also help you on your job search and, get your foot in the door into like an entry level, in the construction industry.
I guess I'll go next. So what should you be doing? Some of the obvious things, of course, is as you are taking this, supplementary education courses, whether they're free or not, make sure that your LinkedIn profile, it's up to date and you reflects that, because people look for those things. If you find a job, that you like, and then when you do compare yourself and where are the gaps that you have, through the application process, as you're putting it in the application, go and take a class to fill that gap, at least even if you can get to an awareness level, because that demonstrates two things. One, the initiative that you're willing to learn, that you want to continue to develop. I've seen at least a handful of scenarios in my industry, oil and gas, that entry-level applicants, they have a gap, but then maybe they don't get the job right away, but then 6 months later, they filled all their gaps to some higher than entry level by taking external classes. A lot of the jobs now, whether they're technical or not, they're also looking for soft skills, right? Whether it is project management, whether it is, other things that can be related, marketing, maybe you're going in business, but you need to know about marketing. So fill those things that they are not in your field, that you're going to need, and that considered soft skills for your field, so that you can have a differentiator like we've been talking about earlier. That's what's important. And then continue to learn those externally on your own. Pick a topic, whatever it may be. It may be related to, how do you deal with international countries, and how do you do business with international countries, things like that. There's a tremendous amount to do it. Yes, it can be overwhelming, but just take your time. You can do a course a week of an hour or two, in your spare time, quote unquote, you will have 52 courses by the end of the year done. Even if you do 30% of that, it's amazing what you get. You couldn't believe it. When I did the Google course, it was 40 hours. I did it over 2 months, and before I know it, it was over. And now I'm looking for the next thing. So it's really up to you. You have to take control of your own development. And whether you do it with the company that you're working with, ask to create a personal development plan, or I call it individual development plan, or IDP, because you have to have your own goals. So it could be short term or medium term, and talk to your manager. If you're working for someone right now, this is what I want to learn. And because you can take classes, but you also want to be able to apply those skills on the job. That's the crucial part, because only 10% of learning comes from listening and theoretical. Practical is when you start to retain all those things.
If I can build on several things that both Yatsen and Sandro said. One is going back to credentials. Look at how you can make your credentials cross-sectional or applicable in different areas. So like, for example, I mentioned PE, which can be used in a variety of different industries. Same thing with my Master Black Belt in Lean Six Sigma. Another one would be a PMP, a project management professional. That's used in the construction industry as well as IT, for example. Being familiar with Agile technology, or which is the newest iteration of project management. That's useful in a number of different arenas. So think about how you can make yourself attractive to people or companies in different industries. And then to the point that Sandra was making about being able to take advantage of your things that you learn. Some of the opportunities that you have aren't on the job, but can be in volunteer organizations. So if you can take a leadership position in some volunteer organization, that's another great way to develop leadership skills. And it's also something that you can put on your resume. And to the point he was making about a development plan, think about how you want to build your resume to what your resume should look like in the future. So think about the current state of your resume, what your resume should look like in the next year, 5 years, and what are those things, what are the opportunities or experiences that you need, what are the courses that you would like to take that you can fill in those gaps. So I think we're all saying very much the same thing.
Thank you. That's all great. I'm looking at our other questions. I feel like we've touched on a lot of these things. So does anybody do any students have any specific questions based off what you've heard so far?
Yeah, you can come out of mute if you want, or you can type it. Don't be shy.
Okay, we have one from Samya. What is a question you always ask an employer during an interview?
Okay, it's good question. It depends. Okay, and so I'll give you an example or two. So one of the ones that I default to quite a bit, and recently I just switched jobs, so I had to go through a number of interviews with different companies. Is if I'm talking to the hiring manager, right, or the business leader, that particular division that I'm going to work to, somebody mid-level or higher, senior, I asked them, for example, in some shape or form, I mean, what are the current challenges of his business, and what is he willing to accomplish this year? Because that gives me two things. One, it tells me about the strategy of what their business wants to get to. What are they experiencing? and perhaps the reasons why. But more importantly, it also tells me about the individual, of what he considers success for his team, which I'm going to be part of. So then I can relate and say, well, I can make connections to where I can help that particular individual, since he's going to be, in this case, the hiring manager and supervisor. That's just one example. I'll pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good one, Sandra. Actually, I was taking notes for that. I think for me, like one of the questions that I've always asked, and I was going back here looking at some of from previous interviews, but also like what are the opportunities for growing in the company, right? Or what are like learning opportunities in the company? Because so it depends what it's important to you, but for me that tells me, if the employer, values education and advancement, then that's a good company, right? They're willing to invest in growing within the company. And then two, it also tells me that they value mentorship, right? Meaning that they're not just gonna let me fly and within the company, that they're going to offer some sort of like guidance into the job. I'm not asking too much, but guidance is always needed, right? Especially when you start, in a new company or a new industry, whatever it is. So that's one of the main things. And then the second thing is, I think it's good to ask, not a personal question, but, like Sandra was saying, get to know a little bit more about the person, not just on the professional side of things, because I can tell you in my previous job, I left the company not because of the job but because of the people, right? And I wish that if I could have gotten a glimpse of that, or maybe asked better questions in my interview, maybe I could have been able to identify some of the not just traits, but some of the process or the way the person works that might not be what I was looking for. So even questions like, what do you like to do for fun? It's always like, I've gotten some reactions to like, oh, like that's what you want to know, right? That just really tells me, if they're like a personable person, if they're willing to, build that relationship with you at work, right? Because we spend the most time, well, before COVID, right, at the office and interacting with coworkers. So I think that's very important. A lot of my mentors have said it's not sometimes all about the job, but it's about the people, right? Whether that makes it or break it, whether you stay in a company or whether you love your job, right? So I would say think about one of the questions. You don't lose anything in asking them in the interview.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I just saw a few questions being, so I just wanted to take them. There comes a scenario when you have multiple offers. And I know there are multiple different parameters to take a decision which one to accept. Am I not audible clearly?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
So my question is, definitely money is one of the prime aspect that I consider to take the decision. But many times between two offers, you have buying, one may be offering a very good money, while the other is more reputed industry with a more, the roles can be same. But in that scenario, how to choose, like where to go?
Okay, well, maybe I can give you my experience, because I actually had a number of offers when I graduated from IIT. One was with DuPont. The other one was with Union Oil Company, the company I co-op with. The other one was with Clark Equipment, who's a company I spent the last 2 summers with, as well as Procter & Gamble, and Brookhaven National Laboratories was another company I interviewed with, and there were a couple of others. But I kind of narrowed it down to Union 76 and DuPont. And partly because with Union 76, I had experience with them. I would have actually had gotten employment I would have gotten the time I spent there would have gone into my time that I would have had been designated to have worked there. So in other words, I would have been able to get vacation sooner, get into the 401k plan sooner, things like that. With DuPont, it was the attraction of being able to come back to Texas because I had enjoyed my time here in the Gulf Coast area. And then, but DuPont's offer was a little bit less than Union 76's. And so what it came down to was, okay, it's not just the money. What are some of the other things that might be important? So I mentioned the location, but the other thing was there were no state taxes in Texas. So my actual offer was a little higher. Now, I actually challenged the offer from DuPont and told them, well, I had actually gotten a couple of higher offers. One was from Procter & Gamble. And even though they told me the offer was firm and final, it turns out it wasn't, because they came back to me a week later and said, oh, we were able to increase the offer. And so what that told me was that they really wanted me. So that also helped the decision. So looking at the benefits package, what things when are you able to get into your 401k plan? When are you able to start vacation? What are some of the opportunities for continuous learning? Do they pay for education? Will they pay for you to go back to school to get a master's or an MBA or something? So those are the questions that you want to ask. But also, to the point that Justin was making, was getting a feel for the people that work for that company. Because if you think about it, you're going to spend more time with those people than you will with almost everybody else, even including your own family. Did that help?
I guess what I will say is, if you negotiate the entire compensation package, just like Ray was saying, if you are still want to negotiate just the salary, always negotiate at least 2 or 3 things. Ask for 2 or 3 things. You may get 1, you may get nothing too, but you have to be prepared for that. And remember also that when you open negotiations, particularly at entry level, you have to decide if you're willing to take the risk, because they can say no and rescind the offer. So that is also an option for them. But keep it reasonable. If you're going to ask for more money, I would say 10% is usually a nice, healthy number. I wouldn't go above 15 unless you are extremely qualified for that position. So 10% is nice, round small number that typically is within the range of companies that they budget the positions for. So.
Thank you so much for the answers.
I think we covered Undral's question, which was negotiating a salary offer. And I don't know if anybody has any further thoughts about that. I would just say, like Sandra was saying, you do have the opportunity to negotiate things beyond salary. And so keep that in mind. Keep in mind, the opportunities for promotion. So like if the salary is a little bit low, like what does a promotion look like? What can they tell you about, like what that next promotion level looks like, when you might be able to get it, what the salary is going to look like then. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. Yeah. Anybody else?
I could add. Let me add a couple of things. So I think as you look at as a new graduate to get into the new markets, I guess I'll say a couple of things, not just for the salary negotiation, is be willing to go to work anywhere. And I literally mean anywhere, because the world has changed. Companies are international. They are remote jobs too. But the experience that you can gather by working outside the country or outside your city to learn to work with others in different cultures and different environments, it's invaluable. So with that in mind, let's just say that you're trying to negotiate a job outside where you're living, you can negotiate, instead of a salary increase, you can negotiate for relocation expenses. You can negotiate for a signing bonus, So there are different things. You have to get creative, because automatically the default people think about cash, you have to take into account, like Ray was saying, is there a state tax? Are all the company benefits funded by the company, or are they partially distributed between the employer and the employee? I mean, all these things come into play. I recently know of somebody who got a new job, and the salary was okay, it was in range, but one of the things that she discovered was that all the medical benefits, literally all of them, life, insurance, medical, dental, vision, 100% paid by the company. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. Okay, so when you take that into account, that is a significant amount of money that you don't have to spend, right? And so again, look at the entire package. Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Ray. Yeah.
Also, I was going to mention the relocation expenses and sign-in bonuses, but let me say more about the 401k plan. I can't say enough about as soon as you're able, get into the company's 401k plan or the equivalent and maximize it to the extent possible. One of the reasons I was able to retire early was because after 5 or 10 years, probably closer to 10 years, I woke up and realized I should be maximizing my 401k contributions. So I did. So every time I got a raise, I gave part of that raise to my 401k plan. And then every time I was able to, I got to a point where I couldn't contribute anymore because I was contributing the maximum. And so also looking at your investments in your 401k plan as part of your job, so that you don't just let them stay idle, but you actually are making them work for you, because that becomes passive income. And if you can do anything, maximize your passive income so that when you get to a point where you don't have to depend on active income, then you can be able to make decisions around your own lifestyle. Do I want to continue to wake up at 7 o'clock every day, or do I want to decide what am I going to do that day? So
switching to investment advice, but I have to ditto what you said, because I maximized from day one my 401k. Okay. So I'm just going to repeat that. But in addition, what I'm going to add, it's, I guess, more investment advice here. You're never too young to get a financial advisor or an investment advisor. Okay, that's my second one. And my third one is, there are some companies, and there's IRS law that allows you to contribute after taxes to your 401k significantly in amount. So take advantage of that too. I was fortunate enough to get that advice early enough. And I mean, I probably have another 6 years. So I'm going to retire before 60 in my upper 50s. So because of all that. So definitely take advantage of that, because I know now, especially young graduates, they get in and work in engineering. And if you're lucky enough to get a 6-figure job, you will go crazy because you don't know what to do with all that money. Just think about that 25% of it should go to savings right away. Don't even think about it that is 100,000. Just think of 75, and put it aside, and you let that grow. Before you know it, you'll be retiring in your 50s. So
I was 57 and a half when I retired.
Yeah, I'm targeting 57, 58. So yeah, 6-7 more years. Yeah. So.
One more question that I have. So what do you think? I mean, if I go through LinkedIn profiles, I do see people, at the designation that I want to see myself 10 years down the line. some of them have got there at certain, with experience, maybe not with degrees. They have gone through years of experience and they have reached there. While I see many young people also reaching there. So what's your advice? When is the correct time to go for, MBA? Or, I mean, should we go and take degrees, or should we more emphasize on the industry experience? I know both have values, but what should be the strategy?
I think it depends on the person.
Yes.
But I think either will work, but it really depends on what your career objectives are. So and some people, if they want to get into more of a technical field, then they may go after an advanced degree. If they know that they want to get into the leadership or the business side of the corporation, then they'll get an MBA. So it really depends on what your career aspirations are.
Mhm.
Yeah, I concur with that. It just depends on your short-term goal, and what do you want to do. Me personally, I mean, I don't think you need MBAs, because you can learn certain things, certain skills and things like that. But MBAs have evolved significantly now too. There's such a wide variety of them, or even the advanced degrees in your field. It all depends on what do you want to accomplish. So when we talked about earlier about an individual development plan, that plan should have two things. Should have a short term for some of the initial things that you want to develop for your job and your next job. But it should also have a portion of that should be what I call a career plan. What are the next 2 or 3 jobs in progression of complexity that you are envisioning? And so that you start developing, taking the initial steps to get to those new jobs in the future. And that can change, on an annual basis. Maybe one day you want to be vice president of the company, then 6 months later you want to say, no, I want to be a technical expert. And so, then you have to allow yourself time to flex. That's why you have to have an ongoing development plan that you review on an annual basis, either personally with your coach and mentor, and your supervisor, or a combination thereof.
Yeah, and if I may add, I would agree with Sandra. I'm more of a experienced person. Even from the moment I graduated, IAT, the mentality that I had was, I can always, what I'm going to learn in getting that master's, I can probably learn that while people are getting their master's. I can probably already be getting that experience, right? Because what you learn in school is not necessarily what you're going to do in your job. Sometimes those things don't match. So I was to recommend something, I would say, think about the career progression that you want to do, but experience is very valuable. And, I'll share a story with you. When I was at IAT, I was going to do a coterminal degree, right, which was going to allow me to get my bachelor's and master's degree, because the coterminal degree with architecture and construction did not get introduced until like my 4th year when I was there. So it wasn't going to give me enough time to kind of finish it and graduate on time, right? And I already had like a job lined up for it. So what I decided, I had to decide whether should I stay 1 extra year to, do that coterminal or extra time at IAT, or should I just get the minor and then get the experience, right? I would say I was pretty bummed out, because a lot of, I saw a lot of like my classmates being able to do that coterminal degree, right? And they were getting that master's degree. And then it made me wonder, am I going to be behind? Am I going to be behind? But what I actually found was they ended up staying. I ended up going, to graduated, got a job, and just the career progression, right? Like I decided, okay, I'm going to set myself to, get the more experience, or, work on bigger projects. And what I realized is that actually I didn't need that master's degree or that coterminal degree, because I was getting put on probably on like better jobs, better position, getting the better jobs from my peers that had actually gotten the master's degree. And I think it was because of the experience, right? A lot of times what I heard from even my friends, and they would say, yeah, I have a master's in this. A lot of the employees would say, but have you done it? Right. But have you actually like been on this? Have you actually done the job? And so what they were missing was one of those things, like the gap, right? Now they needed to put it to practice. So I would agree with the rest of the panel, depending on your career progression, but I would say the experience is very, very, very valuable and can get you very far.
Yeah, let me add another twist to that. And this is actually something I didn't know or didn't appreciate while I was working 37 years, but something I came to appreciate afterwards in talking to one of our HR professionals with DuPont at a conference she was attending here in Houston for it was an MBA society. So some companies, including DuPont, actively go after MBAs or people with advanced degrees. And in some cases, it's PhDs like in chemistry or biology or something like that. But in some cases, even master's levels in chemical engineering or mechanical or even electrical. And they actually target those for leadership positions. So, and that was a little known secret, something I didn't appreciate, like I mentioned. And so it kind of, again, it depends on what your career path is. If you're looking to go through into a technical career, then experience trumps everything. If you are looking to get into a management position, then it might pay to get that MBA or even get an MBA while you're working and let the company pay for it. So that's something else to consider.
Yes. Don't spend your own money if you don't have to.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. We are also, trying to promote the university. We don't want you to not to go to school, right? But MBAs or any advanced degrees, they will be beneficial. Just one of the things I want you to remember what I said earlier is what you learn theoretically is 10% of how you're going to retain it. So you have to be able to practice it, whether it's a degree, a certificate, or whatever it may be. That's how you start advancing faster. If you can get an extra degree and that's what you want to do, by all means. If you can find some of these specific skills through a certificate, what I know IIT is either currently or is planning to start rolling out, certificates, and for beyond bachelor's, do that too, and so you have to have a plan, and take control of your own development and your own career, because nobody else is going to do it for you. So
any suggestion once we are in job, what do you think our focus should be? I know personal development is one thing that I have a little bit of industry experience. What I thought always is go, apart from doing my work, go ahead and help others in your team and maybe the role that you're looking for. That was my motto. Any other tip that you guys have for me? Because I'll be starting my CPD work.
That is, you just said, is tremendously important. Do more than your own job. Volunteer to help others so that you can demonstrate additional skills. And that helps you tremendously in promotions, in visibility, even if you have to do some grunt work, in some other team, but that gives you visibility. This brings me to an anecdote. So I was a technical person for a very long time. And this was back when I was still working in Chicago, one of my first companies. And I was explaining to a customer some technical drawings, right, from a particular unit that we were selling them. And in the meeting was the sales director for that particular account. And so at the end of the meeting, after I explained some very technical things in a simple way to a foreign customer, the sales director came to me and they said, he says, you have the ability to explain complex things quite simply. and also communicate well to other cultures. It says, I want to create a position for you in my sales team so that you can go with the salespeople and help translate the technical stuff into simple things. And that's my point, that working in other things, stepping above and beyond, learning how to do the soft skills beyond your training and expertise will open doors for you. But you have to be willing to do those things and move yourself out of your own comfort zone. Now, you can be perfectly happy in being the technical person and staying in your bubble, and that's okay too. But you just have to determine what is it that makes you happy, what is going to be your goal, what is your career success going to look like, and follow that path. So.
Yeah, let me add something else that's extremely important and something I didn't appreciate early in my career was you have to actively recruit both a mentor and a champion.
Yeah.
And there are two different roles. A mentor is somebody that can provide coaching, can help you navigate the culture, because there are a lot of unwritten rules in any corporate culture, so both the written rules and the unwritten rules. But the champion is the person that breaks the barriers for you, or takes care of the things that are unseen that you may not be aware of. When there are, having been a manager, I'm aware of what happens in rating meetings or compensation meetings where there is a lot of back and forth. You know, certain people in certain companies actually promote or rate people on a bell curve. It's called the forced distribution. Some companies have gotten away from that. Some companies have gotten away from that and then gone back to it again. So what you have to be aware of is how is the rating structure determined, and then who's going to be your advocate. So your champion is your advocate, your mentor is your coach. So you want to have both.
Yep.
Great. All right. Well, we are just pushing at 6:15, so I don't want to hold any of you here any longer. I know everybody's got lots of things to do, and I know our students certainly have things to do. But we are going to be sharing this recording on our YouTube page. I put the YouTube link in. Like I said, we want to make sure that our students can get a hold of members of our Career and Professional Development Committee, so that you can take advantage of this great mentorship and ask these great questions in the future. So we'll work on getting that out. If you do have any specific questions right now that you want to get to this committee, just go ahead and email. Actually, you can email me directly at. I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and I can make sure I get it to the right people. You know, the panel here and the committee as well, and we can answer some more questions for you. So, Raymond, Sandro, Yotsin, thank you so much for your time and for your amazing advice. We really appreciate it. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I enjoy this all the time. I guess I'll just close by saying to the students, thank you for participating. If you want to connect with me with LinkedIn, just send me an invite. Mention that we spoke here, so I know who you are. But yeah, I look forward to the next panel. Yeah, I enjoy these quite a bit. So.
So everything Sandro said.
Thank you everybody for taking my questions and answering me. Thank you so much.
And good luck with your new role.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.